Now, let's turn attention to our conversation today. It's widely reported that President-elect Bola Tinubu has met with NNPP presidential candidate Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso in France. Sources say the talks were about the possibility of working together as well as reconciliation along party lines, and that the main subject is getting Kwankwaso to join a government of national unity. Perhaps this is President-elect matching words with action. Recall that Bola Tinubu extended the olive branch to the opposition after he received a certificate of return at the ICC in Abuja. And this was exactly what he said.
This great project called Nigeria beckons to us all. It is bigger and more important than any partition divide. To my supporters, I ask you to continue to have faith in the mission that we have articulated. Though those who didn't support me, I ask that you not allow the disappointment of this moment to keep you from realizing the historic national progress we can make by working together. We must join hands in this common endeavor to pull the nation through. In a phrase, I'm asking you to work with me. I may be the president in an election, but I need you more importantly. Nigeria needs you a lot more than just one person. My heart, my door are open to you. I ask you to come in so that we may begin the task of rebuilding our national home together, day by day, brick by brick.
Now, let's talk about Asiwaju's proposal for government of national unity. The closest we had to this was in 2007 when then-President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua proposed a government of national unity. I recall that when he sworn in his cabinet on 26 July 2007, it included 2 ministers from the opposition ANPP. How feasible is this effort at national unity, and how important is it for the coming administration? I'm joined now by strategy and governance expert Yemi Mapaderun. Also joining me is strategist and policy analyst Baba Yusuf, who is at our Abuja studio. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Let's begin from Abuja. Mr. Yusuf, the 2023 presidential election result figures seem to have shown to us again just how sharply divided Nigerians have become along the lines of politics, ethnicity, and religion. But how critical is mending these cracks to the success of the incoming administration?
Thank you, Nifemi. Just to refresh your memory a little bit, the history of government of national unity in the last 23 years actually started when General Olusegun Obasanjo became the president in 1999. If you recall, there was an alliance between Alliance for Democracy, of which Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerged as governor of Lagos State, and the likes of Chief Olusegun Oshoba. And you had the alliance was between Alliance for Democracy and the All People's Party, APP, led by the late, Mahmoud Waziri, which later, emanated, and it worked as a government of national unity at the first 1999-2003. You had the likes of Aisha Ismail, Chief Vincent Oglafo, late Muhammad Shatta of APP, and you had the likes of Chief Bola Ige from the Alliance for Democracy, forming the cabinet, first Federal Executive Council cabinet for Chief Olusegun Obasanjo at that time, then moving on to the time you mentioned. Now back to the question of the critical issue of the need for unity in Nigeria at this point, at a point where Nigeria is most polarized along ethnic, tribal, religious, and regional lines. This is a crack that has been there as a fault line for a long time, but it has been more eminent and more robust at this point in time. And therefore, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and indeed all leaders that have emerged at national and subnational level, should be very conscious of that in the way and manner they form their government, their various cabinets, and run the various government at national and subnational level. Particularly at this instance, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president, the need for him to first of all, comfort the mind of Nigerians across the divide that he is a president for Nigerians, not for one part of the country, not for a particular class of people, and indeed not only for the APC, to assuage the fears of Nigerians, because the critical issue in Nigeria today is the fear factor, and for these steps that we are about to discuss today may be one of the steps to take, if indeed any, to see how those fears will be assuaged, and then the actions that will demonstrate that and bring Nigeria more together and move forward in the progressive direction.
Absolutely. Let's bring in Mr. Mapaderun to this conversation. Let's talk about how this has fared in recent history. In naming his cabinet in 2007, recall that President Yar'Adua brought some of his critics into government. The main opposition party, the NNPP, was given 2 ministerial slots for agreeing to join the government of national unity. How strategic was that move? And how much impact would you say it had on his 3-year tenure at the time?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nifemi, for having me on this program. There is no doubt Nigeria is one of the most diverse countries of the world. There will always be the challenge of building bridges, reaching out to different contending interests, particularly after elections. It becomes even so difficult within the ruling parties. We think that when elections, you are still going to find a situation whereby a lot of interest will be jostling for our attention. And that has not been scarce, even in this dispensation. Like my colleague in the Abuja studio said, this has been a recurring decimal. A lot of people tend to have forgotten that in 1999, General Obasanjo actually, not necessarily because it was required by law, to do that, because in the presidential system of government, it's actually a winner takes all. But in order to carry the people along, bring in the different tendencies to support the government in its programs and policies, it has become a tradition that, parties that won elections, especially at the federal level, want to reach out to elements of the opposition. And this is not surprising. Beyond trying to give everyone a sense of belonging, it is also very strategic in that it has the tendency of minimizing or mitigating the issue of resistance programs and policies of government. In fact,
Well, it seems we have issues getting connected with Mr. Mapaderun at the time.
It got very interesting at a point that sitting chairman.
We'll get back to Mr. Mapaderun shortly while we work on that connection. But Mr. Yusuf, it's one thing to extend an olive branch, it's another thing for it to be received on the other hand. In 2007, recall that ANPP and PPA agreed to join Yar'Adua's government, but ACN didn't. As a matter of fact, according to the party's spokesperson, Lai Mohammed, at that time, it was quoted to have said that the presidential system of government that we operate today makes no provision for a government of national unity. It went on to say that his party believes that joining the government of national unity will negate all that we've stood for throughout all the years, which is multi-party democracy. How optimistic are you that opposition parties, will oblige this time?
Nifemi, what is going to influence this concept, if it plays out as speculated, is the ability of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reign in his political capital, demonstrate political sagacity. As you can see, if we can use the scenario of the engagement with engineer Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, presidential candidate of the NNPP, you can see the sagacity playing out, leveraging long-term, deepened relationships starting from 1999 when they came into the polity as mates governors. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, governor of Kano State, and we had Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, governor of Lagos State. The relationship matrix applied emotional intelligence to be able to get the critical stakeholders, first of all, to step forward and agree to extend the hands of fellowship to say, yes, we agree, we can give you some level of trust to see how we can engage, is going to be the deciding factor or the critical success factor moving forward for that to cascade to the followers or the supporters of those critical stakeholders, and that will permeate into the generality of the polity. And those are the steps to take. Of course, what remains to be seen is part of the blueprint the president-elect would, put before these critical stakeholders to say, this is what I have for Nigeria, and you are going to be part of it in engendering unity, in engendering, harmony, and also build the new confidence for a new Nigeria moving forward for us to deliver short to mid-term, if we look at the 4 years, what will tell Nigerians that things are changing. So we will be very, very observant with regards to that. The track record of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu with regards to strategy, with regards to positioning, and this kind of engagement is there for us to see. We will see how these cards play out this time.
Well, Mr. Mapaderun, how does the president-elect carry his party along? If we can hear you now, you recall that, just recently the APC is divided along interest lines about the party's decision to zone the leadership of the 10th National Assembly. How do you sell the idea of, the idea of national unity to those that worked, bringing those that worked against the party on board? How do you sell it to loyal party members?
Well, I didn't know at what point I was young up by, in the internet network. But I was alluding to that fact, in my response to your initial question, that everything is about interest, and there is nothing that you do that will meet every interest. However, you need to look at kind of equilibrium, and that leads us to this question that we have asked about satisfying, the interests of party members, and also bringing in elements of vision. Let me quickly point this out, that the government of national unity that we're talking about is not essentially, an alliance or a coalition, the sort that you find in parliamentary system of government. Like I said, in the presidential system of government, the winner takes all. However, because of prevalent circumstances of our failure, or will I say, inability to forge Nigeria into a nation. Up to now, over 60 years after independence, you find it a recurring decimal that people will appeal, to various tendencies, including religion, ethnicity, and of course, geopolitical zones. And like you said, even within the ruling party, it does appear that there is a big who gets what. And at this point, you want to also factor the opposition elements into the whole calculation. My feeling is that I'm a bit optimistic that if there is anyone who is capable of bringing as many people to the table as possible, irrespective of their different persuasion. It is actually Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu because of his pedigree, because of his antecedents.
Okay.
And we could also see from the result of the election that he is the only one that tended to have the spread, which has an indication of a level of acceptability in 29 states out of 36. So if there is anyone that has ability to bring contending forces together, and we could see even the way he has managed the pre-primary and post-primary, and of course the post-general election affairs of the party, you will discover that it seems to be a centripetal force.
Indeed.
Party, rather than a centrifugal force.
All right, so let's attempt to do this in 2 minutes. Mr. Yusuf, if you can, I want us to talk about federal character. The Constitution, as we speak, requires the president to appoint a minister from each state of the federation. What do you think unites us better? Getting a representative from each state, or having appointments based on merits that can bring about productive performance?
It will be a mix of both. I call it a hybrid of options, given the situation we are in Nigeria. Nifemi, there's a reason why there are provisions in the Constitution, for this representation from all regions. The reason is to foster unity. So, like I said in another forum, Nigeria is so blessed that we have the best of the best from every part of Nigeria. It is very easy for one that wants to be fair to look around Nigeria, the 6 geopolitical zones, across party, ethnicity, religion, and pick the best of the best amongst us and form a government. So it's very easy to balance between the two: competence, capacity and equity in terms of the balance across the nation. While I'm at it quickly, we should also look at this engagement in France with the NNPP leader to look at it and also put a pointer to the positive dynamics and permutations with the emergence of the leaders of the National Assembly. We know there's some chunk of numbers of the members of House of Reps from Kano State that are represented, as representatives elect, rallying around these numbers to ensure that the emergence of the leader is in a way a manner that the APC wants to achieve, especially the leader, is one of the possible strategic moves that Asiwaju is making, just an addition to that. But a balance of capacity, competence, and representation from all parts of this country are critical, and I think we should take it on board that way. I believe Mr. President-elect has that very much in mind.
It's a long haul to fixing Nigeria, but Nigerians expect the incoming administration to hit the ground running as soon as possible. Strategy and governance expert Yemi Mapaderun will definitely bring you to the studio when you're chanced. A big thank you to Baba Yusuf, who joined us from our Abuja studios, the Group CEO of Global Investment and Trade Company. Gentlemen, thank you for your time on the program. And that's the countdown today.